I know Black Ops 7 just dropped and we've been having a ton of fun with Ashes of the Dam, but we gotta talk about DLC 1 Astra Melorum, something that was already teased. We already got the logo and even an image for it that I'm sure you guys have all seen, but now I want to talk about some more teasers that we got, both from Ashes of the Dam and ones directly from Treyarch. Now, I know you guys are going to enjoy this video, so I'd appreciate if you guys could show some support on the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, bell, share, any of that great stuff. But with that said, let's get into this. So I first want to talk about the teaser that we got that was actually in game. In other words, on Ashes of the Damned, which is something that I don't see a lot of people picking up on, because the teaser that we got was kind of hidden, but you have to understand the story context of it to really understand it. And to really get this, you have to remember that through the two cutscenes we got during the Easter egg, that we were told that our main goal for probably these next few maps is freeing Shadowsmiths from the grasp of the Warden, the cowboy guy, right? That's what we're going to be doing. We see this at the end of this boss fight on Ash of the Dam. We free this Shadowsmith, and now he gave the memories and souls to both Dempsey and Maya, and we're probably going to do that a couple more times before we get the souls and memories for all 8 of the characters. And I can match it with the next map. We're going to be fighting another Shadowsmith and freeing their soul, so we could do the same thing here again. But one thing you have to understand is that the Shadowsmith that was on Ashes of the Dam was the announcer during the game.
Bonus points!
After you beat the Easter egg, this is when we get that teaser, and it's not even during the cutscenes, and it's only if you choose to continue to play your game and then get power up. You'll notice that the announcer has changed. Obviously different here. It's now a female announcer than compared to the male announcer that we had. So I think this is directly teasing the next Shadowsmith we're going to be fighting in Astra Melorum. It's going to be some female Shadowsmith and definitely going to be the boss that we're going to fight in that map. So already I think this is a really cool hidden teaser that you have to understand the context of the story for to really understand it. So if you guys missed that one's for you. But now I want to talk about the new teasers that Treyarch has been giving us, because this is actually very interesting what they have been telling us, especially the first teaser. And in fact, let me show you that first teaser right here. And here what we actually see is an advertisement showing that there's going to be at the Thrustom, a planetarium, there's going to be an exhibition on January/February 1910. Now already this makes sense, the planetarium, because we've already known for a while that Astra Melorum is going to take place at a planetarium. It seems like this is going to be one of the things that's going to be there. And in fact, this might be telling us why this area is even in the Dark Aether to begin with. But let's not jump ahead, we'll come back to that in a bit. But there's actually more to this, because we actually see this dagger and they give us a bit more information about it right below it. They say whose dagger this was. They say this is Josiah Shem's ritual dagger. And that is extremely interesting, because Josiah Shem is not a new character. In fact, he was first introduced to us in Black Ops 6 Zombies, more specifically Shattered Veil. And we've actually seen him in game. And I don't know if you guys noticed this about him, but he's wearing the garments of the Order from the Chaos story. Something that was kind of common in Black Ops 6 stories, that there were some ties into the Chaos story. And it seems like this exact same character is returning. So does this mean that the Chaos story is continuing to be tied into the story of Black Ops 7 Zombies now? I mean, not only do we see someone from the Order, but on top of that, if you look at the date, 1910 is an interesting date, because if you look at the events of the Chaos story, they all take place in 1912, just literally 2 years later. So could it potentially tie into all this? Well, maybe, but let's not get ahead of ourselves, because sure, the time is about the same time, but then you have Josiah Shem, and yes, it is true that he was a part of the Order, but he left to go do his own thing, and he left a long time ago, because he actually was a part of the Order. And keep in mind, the Order is like an ancient thing that's been around for thousands of years. Literally, we saw them even in the Roman Empire literally 2,000 years ago, so they were existing in the background. And Josiah Shem was not around in the 1900s. Instead, he was around in the 17 and 1800s. That's when he was alive doing his thing. And to really understand this, I have to give you a little backstory on Josiah Shem. Because like I said, at one point he was a part of the order, but then he left to go do his own thing because of who he was communicating with. And when he did this, he had to find a place where he could communicate with this mysterious person. And when doing this, he started a cult and promised them eternal life to become immortal. But where he found that there was a connection to whoever he was talking to was actually none other than the exact location that Shattered Veil takes place in. Because here he found some Native Americans here, and a common story, he forced them out because of who they were talking to, who their maybe god was, or whoever they considered a god. And this was the same person he was communicating to. And he would told his followers that this is the place that the person who he's talking to is going to give them eternal life. And this is exactly when him and his cult actually build the mansion that is Shattered Veil. Like, he is the one behind this, so it's direct ties into that. But when is this all taking place? Well, this all starts in 1770. So way before the 1900s, like we're talking about pretty far back, hundreds of years before that. So that's what we're talking about here. But regardless, for whatever reason, it takes them 40 years to finally start the ritual to all become immortal. And this is when it's revealed who Josiah Shem has been talking to this whole time. He's been talking to someone in the Dark Aether, and this is none other than Kortifex, the Deathless One from the Vanguard zombie story. Now keep in mind, Kortifex is a Dark Aether entity, and we assume he's been long dead, not only because we defeated him in the final map, but even if he did survive that, the Forsaken would show up soon after that and defeat a lot of these Dark Aether entities and take their power from them. So keep that all in mind. But unfortunately for Josiah Shem and his followers, Kortifex is not to be trusted because he has no intention of giving them eternal life or becoming immortal. Instead, when they finally start the ritual, we actually hear that he just kills them all. That's what happens. Pretty unfortunate for them, but that's what happens. And this all ties back to this teaser that we saw, because on this we see Josiah Shem's ritual dagger, and this was a dagger that he used to start this whole ritual to summon Kortifex, and unfortunately not go great for them. So what I'm saying is that this ritual has direct ties not to the Chaos story, but instead the Vanguard story, and specifically Kortifex. Now, as I already mentioned, I don't think Kortifex is still alive, so I don't know how useful it is to us that it is tied to him, but that's exactly what it is. So maybe we could see some remnant or something tied to Kortifex. Maybe he's secretly still alive this whole time, and we will finally see that in Astra Melorum. But the final thing I'll say about this teaser, and I know there's a lot of it to talk about here, but is actually the caption Treyarch gave here, because what Treyarch says about this is, the blood spilled by this blade paved the way for our own ascension. And that is fascinating, because it seems like potentially this could have been the real reason why Kortifex tricked them into doing this ritual and killing them all, because it seems like there was something else happening there. Kortifex was helping them do something else, had some other plan. Now what this plan is, I have no idea. He says for our own ascension. What does he even mean by that? I really don't know, and I'm so curious to find out, because keep in mind, a lot of the times with these little teasers right here that they give us are actually little excerpts from radios that we eventually hear on the map. So I'm so curious to hear who is talking about this here. It makes me question, like, what exactly did Kortifex trick these people into doing, and who was it helping? He says pave the way for our own ascension. What is happening here? And I'm so fascinated by that. And now I do want to move on to the next teaser, and I promise I won't waste as much time on this one. But next we have this teaser here, and what we see is Thrustodon Planetarium Exhibition, and it's going to be January, February 1910, everything that we've seen before. And then we see this rock thing that has little writing on it. And the bottom right, it says Relic Fragment. And this one we don't know nearly as much about. This isn't something we've seen before at all, at least from what I can remember. So it's hard to really tie this back into anything else. Now, if you look at the writings on this, some people say you could actually see the construct from the Vanguard story. I don't really see it myself. These just look like a bunch of random things that could be anything, even if it does look like the construct, it could just be some random writing here at the end of the day. So I'm really not sure what this is, and it says it's a fragment of an artifact. Which artifact is it? I have no idea. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before. So unlike the previous one, I don't think this ties into something from the past, at least that we know of thus far. So I guess we'll have to find out. But much like the last teaser, we do have a little excerpt that's probably again from a radio. And what this says is that its purpose remains alien to us, as the hands that fashioned this relic untold millennia ago. So right away we could actually get some information about this relic, and that it is that whoever has it, they have nothing about. I mean, obviously who has it is probably the planetarium during this excitation, but it seems like this is a really ancient thing, very, very old. And they say millennia ago, so this is probably from the Dark Aether. Something in the Dark Aether that is super old, that's only a fragment of it. So I'm very curious to see what this is. And the fact that they do question who made it also is quite interesting. So I can imagine there's going to be a cool story that's going to be told with this, maybe tying into the Dark Aether entities, the Shadowsmiths, or someone just ancient Aether, or maybe people are right and this is somehow the construct or something like that. But regardless, those are the two teasers. But there is one major thing that I want to talk about before I let you guys go, and this might be exactly why this map is even going to be in the Dark Aether to begin with. Because keep in mind, a lot of these areas that are in the Dark Aether rather have always been there, were sent down there by Nikolai, or something happened to them and they were pulled down into them. It's like we saw with Janus Towers most recently. But to me, what I think is going on here, and why this map, why Astra Melorum is even in the Dark Aether, is exactly because of these artifacts. We see these things. Josiah Shem's ritual dagger, this is directly tied to Kortifex, obviously once the ruler of the Dark Aether, so very powerful stuff. And then this artifact that seems like it's ancient from millennia ago, probably tied to the Dark Aether. So it seems like these artifacts, and probably the more, as we will see when we get the map and more teasers, are the reason why this map is in the Dark Aether. It was pulled down because of these things, and I can imagine that they're going to play not only a part in why it's in the Dark Aether, but also through the story of the map and even its Easter egg. And because of this, I'm very excited for Astra Melorum, and I cannot wait to play it, but still having fun on Ashes of the Dam. But regardless though, that is finally going to wrap it up for this video. And as always, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, opinions, and everything on everything we talked about here. Do you have anything I missed here, or a theory that could work out even better than what I'm talking about here? Regardless though, that's going to wrap it for me. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.